Good morning, Amy McKay.
Good morning, Julie Wilson.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm not a morning person. I'll say that off the top, but I'm doing fine.
Well, I appreciate you talking to us at the 49th Shelf. So we're doing this thing for fall festivals called Fest, and the idea is that there are all these really great festivals across the country, and of course, not everybody can jet across the country. And so I was thinking, well, this isn't all that dissimilar. Two people in two different places, sort of connecting via Skype, and talk. I mean, like this really is sort of like the beauty of the internet world, is it not? That we live in an age where people can actually connect this way and talk about books and reading. So you are,
I
of
think
course.
it's I think it's appropriate too because I think our first interactions were online and also on Twitter. So this is like, a natural for us.
Actually, this is really uncomfortable for me because I'm not used to looking at you.
I'm sorry. I know I'm so unsightly, but
No, 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 not the case at all. Can I ask you actually about is that a watercolor behind you?
it's an oil painting.
Is it? And does it have personal significance of any sort?
It does. It was my Mother's Day present 2 years ago.
Oh, nice.
My son Ian painted it for me.
Oh,
He's a painter.
oh, it's beautiful.
He's going into his third year at NASCAD, so I'm very very proud. And yeah, it was one of those things where he was working on it. This 2 years ago in the summertime, my writing studio is out in the barn on the back of our property, in the loft, and it's a double. The loft has two spaces, so he took the space next to mine
Oh, nice.
and set up a studio for himself. So all that spring and summer, we were working parallel. I was working on the Virgin Cure, and he was working on paintings, for school and for gallery. And so it was amazing because I would have to walk through his studio to get to mine,
Yeah.
and I would get to look at his work. We started to have these great conversations about process and inspiration, and it was phenomenal. And at the end of that spring, when Mother's Day came along, he had this painting finished, and I said, "What are you gonna do with that one?" And he said, "Oh, I might take it to the gallery to sell it. I don't know." And I said, "Do you think maybe you might give it up?" And he said, "Well, Mother's Day is coming." And so anyway, we had this nice little dance, and now it's here.
Do you think? Do you feel like do you think your process rubbed off on each other in any way?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. It was something. In fact, it was a moment for me when the first reviews of the Virgin Cure came out. I think it was maybe the second or third one that came out, and I can't remember where it was, but they actually called my writing painterly,
Huh.
and it took my breath away. I just was like, wow, that someone could see it in the work so
Mm-hmm.
clearly. I had felt it, but to have someone else who didn't know me read the book and take that away, that was really something. I mean, I've always been someone who's tried to create atmosphere, and I'm very sort of sparked by visual cues, and
Mm-hmm.
I have, old photographs and maps all over my studio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to have someone pick it out of the narrative and the prose
Mm-hmm.
was really gratifying. It was really neat.
Um, so I want to ask now because you're touring with the Virgin Cure. I was wondering, I was thinking about this when I don't know why when it comes to you, but so much of your writing is actually birthed out of things that, and I'm sure that's not the first time. Please tell me that
Oh
it's
no, it doesn't even,
it's
like,
been said a lot. Okay.
yeah.
Um, but so much of your writing is sort of informed by these cues that are very very close to home. So when you're touring, is it really jarring for you to be in new places, or do you sort of approach it with the same sort of are you more like a sleuth? Are you like looking for other cues when you travel to new places?
Well, I've always been someone who's been, I like to eavesdrop. I like to sort of be on the perimeter of conversations because that's where dialogue is born. That's
Mm-hmm.
where you get that sense of cadence. I was I was a musician before I was a writer,
Mm-hmm.
and so I always listening for the musicality in people's language and their interaction with each other, and even their body language, how they hold their bodies and move back and forth with each other. We really are sort of inherent dancers, musicians in our lives, but we just don't acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And so it's great to be able to go out to a festival or to a reading and have those moments where I'm not in the spotlight and I'm observing. Mm-hmm. And that to me is really amazing. But I did have a problem. I remember the first tour I had with the birth house, I did have a problem with switching gears, like leaving home and my wellies and my overalls. Mm-hmm. So all the sort of comforts of home behind, and realizing that, you've got to, I didn't even really think of it so much as performance, but just sharing myself with others in a way that I necessarily wasn't always used to. Mm-hmm. So that was a bit of a challenge, because I would always try to gear up for it. I stressed about what I was going to wear and which passages I was going to read and that sort of thing. And I'm much more relaxed about it now than I was then. Mm-hmm. But I still have of ramping up to, and it gets hard working on something new to tear yourself away from that and then mm-hmm. to get back into the other book and feel that affinity and mm-hmm. the flow that you need in order to get up and share that work with somebody or a whole group of people.
Right. It must be affirming, though, that when you oh gosh, and I know what you're talking about. That's sort of the feeling of anticipation. I think it's one of the worst sort of like synthetic feelings that I can imagine, because of course it never is the reality. It's impossible that whatever happens will be the reality. But there is that, and when you perform, you leave a significant chunk of yourself sort of out there and behind to sort of linger. But it must be really affirming nonetheless to meet readers in person and have the opportunity for them to be able to tell you what your writing means to them.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it, because you work so hard, you kind of slave away alone, or you have a very close-knit group that comment work in progress. Mm-hmm. That I don't have a writer's group, but I do. My husband is the first person who reads what I've written, so we have that wonderful kind of connection, and we're still married 13 years, so he's doing something right. And as far as like being able to read the work and me being able to accept his comments, his feedback, his criticism, he's fantastic about it. But then to go on tour and to meet readers and to just share the work with them. And what I find, because maybe it's just because my stories are so personal, I get a lot of people then needing to tell their stories as well.
Right.
With the birth house, it was birthing stories. Mm-hmm. I could, and I actually did a few events where that's what it was. We would, aside from a reading, we would just sit in a big circle, and there'd be like 30 women, and they'd all be telling birthing stories. And it was phenomenal, because the age range would be from, I had women who were actually pregnant, yeah. Coming, and then, 85-year-old grandmothers who had seen it all. And to be able to sit in that circle and to benefit from that wisdom and storytelling tradition was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So, I look forward to that, because that tends to happen to me anyway. Just, I can go to the grocery store and I get that. I must have one of those faces. But, I kind of feel like that's my, I don't know if you want to call it calling, but that's my lot in life, to be this receiver of story. And it's wonderful. I'm having a great time with it.
Well, and then you're appearing at Eden Mills Writers Festival coming up very soon. Have you been to Eden Mills before?
No, and I've heard so many amazing things about it. And I can remember when I first moved to Canada, I was such a book television junkie.
Right.
Watch all the interviews with all the CanLit greats, and I would see the footage of all the big festivals. And Eden Mills was like on my dream list of, I've got to go there someday. And so when I got the invitation, I was totally excited.
I have a feeling you're going to kind of lose your mind a little bit, because just based on what you said and based on what I know about you, like Eden Mills is like, it is like a little village that is set aside. And
Nice.
they have like the publishers marketplace where there are tables, and you can walk through like a row of like wares for sale, and like in books, and like small presses and indie presses. And then there's like all this beautiful sort of like outdoor venues where the actual sort of like you're being heckled by an otter or something, like an otter going by.
Really?
Like people will like. I read at the Fringe tent a couple of years ago, and I don't know if it was my reading or another reading, but there was this sort of swell in the crowd, and you're like, yeah, words are powerful, but no, it was like and it wasn't just an otter. I think it was like the neighborhood otter or something. It's like going by in the background. It's like, oh right, I'm competing with nature.
That's pretty awesome.
But one of the things I thought, because you're a self-professed geek,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh yeah.
and
Big
I
time.
have, and I wish that we thought about this a little bit sooner, because I think this would be the perfect venue for a LARPing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I don't know why, because if we could have just like gotten all of the authors together and like pit us one against another. I don't know what it would be, the YA authors against the adult authors against the. But I have a feeling that maybe, I don't know, maybe we'd actually be too shy to do that. But I think that would have been fun.
Oh, that would have been hilarious. That
Yeah,
would have been great. I would have, yeah. There
totally.
are costumes that could be acquired.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at Eden Mills. It's always a pleasure to chat with you and see you in person. So I don't know, maybe if we can find some wrapping paper tubes or something like that,
Oh
we
yeah,
can have
yeah.
a.
The you know what works really well are those noodles, pool noodles.
Oh yes,
Those are awesome. You can tell I have two sons, right?
yeah.
The 11-year-old would be on board with this all the way. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Duct tape and pool noodles is really all you need, and you're good to go.
Okay, I be warned. You may have just given me a recipe for disaster here.
Hey, go for it.
All right. Amy McKay, thank you so much for talking today, and
Oh, thank you.
we will see you at Eden Mills very soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, take care. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye.
Don't hang up.
I'm not hanging up.
That was great. And